Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for attending this exclusive webinar for Mr. Marketer. We do apologize that this session started a couple minutes late. We actually had a couple of small technical issues which have been resolved as of now. In this webinar, we're going to have Mr. Bill Storm going over some of the great methods for marketing. Mr. Storm, I'll pass you the mic.
Yes, sir. Thanks so much. Today we're going to talk a little bit about marketing. And one of the things that I hear from coaching clients week after week is some of the things that they've learned just aren't working. So in order to better understand this, the first thing we have to do is we have to look at ourselves. So to get better with your results that you get from marketing, you have to get better yourself at the actual presentation. Now, this shouldn't be news to anyone that's a martial artist. We know that when we're white belts, we learn things like a front kick. But just because you learn a front kick doesn't mean you can still execute that front kick the same way a black belt does. A black belt's just not going through the motions, but now they can hit you from anywhere with it, right? It's all about timing and distancing and throwing it correctly and just instinctively knowing when to throw that kick. So marketing is very much the same way. We get frustrated because we're trying to do black belt kicks when we're still at our infancy and actually learning and mastering some of these techniques. Now, one of the things that I'll hear also is, boy, I wish I could say it the way you say it. Well, it's funny because I started out as a program director back in 1989, and way back then in 1989, I remember saying to my instructor, wow, if I could just say it the way you say it. So that's just something that's built over time. You get better at it through repetition. I'm going to put my information up here on the board. I'm very, very thorough planning for my clients, and I did a complete October planner. It's completely done for you. So if you'd like to get a hold of me after this webinar or you'd like a copy of that planner, there's my email address. You can email me, or of course you can also call me or text me at that number below. This picture next to it is so super. I actually posted this on Facebook today. If you're not a friend of mine on Facebook, please friend me. It says, you want to know the difference between a master and a beginner. The master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried. And that is so, so true. Again, if I go back to the early days of when I was a program director, I failed over and over and over again. I remember before I was even allowed to do an enrollment conference, I had to sit there with the instructor and role play, and it was very, very difficult to do that. I was so nervous about doing that role playing, but we had to do it over and over and over again until he felt confident enough that we could go in there on our own. And then even once we did go in there on our own, what I had to do is I had to take a tape recorder at the time, and I had to put it in the desk drawer, and I'd have to record myself speaking to potential student or potential student's parents, then go back and listen to myself speak. And it was just amazing how ridiculous that I sounded to myself. Some of the things that I said or the way that I presented it were just awful. So I failed over and over and over again. Marketing is very much the same way. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail over and over and over again, and you find out all of the things that just simply don't work, and eventually you'll find out how to make them work better. So today, hopefully what I'm going to do is I'm going to share some ideas you've already heard. I'm not going to come up with something that's, just totally, off the wall or, new and cutting edge. They're the basics. They're the bread and butter, the things that get it done month after month, and I'm going to try to show you the difference between mastery level and the beginner level. All right, so let's pick one here and break it down. Here's something very, very simple, rack cards. Just about anyone who does consulting will say, you should put out rack cards. And a while back it used to be lead boxes, and those are kind of run their course. So rack cards are something that are suggested that you put out. And for a beginner, we suggest that they try to get out 100 locations. And the reason that we do that is because we want to drive people to our website, but we also want people to pick those up, and that increases the number of info calls that you get. And of course, info calls leads to appointments. How do I know these work? Well, I've used them myself. When I first moved down to South Florida, I was looking for a place, something different to do for training, and I said, hey, you know what, I'm going to try this CrossFit thing. I've heard a lot about it. I want to go try it. And I just happened to be in a restaurant, and I went up to pay the bill, and right there on the counter, right next to the restaurant, were rack cards for a CrossFit facility. I didn't even realize that this CrossFit facility was literally one block down. Down here in South Florida, a lot of things are in these kind of industrial roll-up garage type of setups instead of in an actual plaza. And I just didn't have any idea it was in there. So the rack card was effective in that instance. I picked it up, I looked at it, I went over there, I made an appointment to go in for the first time, and I went in and I did it, and I ended up signing up to train there. So do they work at the beginner level? Absolutely. Is it labor intensive? Yeah, it is, because you have to distribute them, and then you have to keep up with them and make sure that they're constantly out there. But remember, these are little billboards for you all over town. Now let's go to mastery level. What else can be done with a rack card? Well, for me, the rack card is just a piece of paper, a piece of card stock that we put out there. But my real goal is to build rapport and to establish friendship and common interest with other merchants in my area. I want them to team up with me to help me achieve the goals that I'm looking to achieve. So at a mastery level, I'm not just coming in and saying, hey, would you mind if I put these rack cards here, or would you like to cross-promote with our school? I'm not doing that. I'm going to go in and sit down. So I'll give you a real live example. One of the merchants that I met in my community, his name was Jason Nash, and he owns a Subway franchise. Well, the only reason I really got to know Mr. Nash is because I went in and I ordered lunch. So I had a sandwich and I started talking to him. He just happened to be there that day. He was working. I guess he had some issue with an employee being out or something like that, and I just struck up a conversation with him. So through that conversation, we started to build a lot of rapport, and I ended up finding out that he had a son and he had a daughter. Well, come to find out, his son actually goes to the same school, or went to the same school that my son did. So now we had a whole lot in common. He asked me what I did, and I started to talk about the martial arts school, and he was like, wow, he goes, I've been thinking about something different for Evan to do. And I said, geez, I said, Jason, why don't you bring him down? We've got a parents' night out coming up this Friday. That might be a really good way to break the ice, let him come in and check it out and see if he likes the atmosphere. And I believe at that time the parents' night out we had going on was like a Nerf gun war. We called it Black Ops, and the kids came in and we painted the black under their eyes, and it was just a lot of fun. And of course, Evan totally loved it. And he ended up becoming a student. But because of the time that I took to build rapport, I told Jason, I said, I'd love to build a relationship with you where we can kind of cross-promote our businesses. Why don't we, if you got a minute, let's talk about some different ways that we can cross-promote. So I started talking to him about fundraisers that I was doing at the elementary school using Parents' Night Out. I talked to him about just different other things that I had going out in the community. I talked to him about our graduations and how sometimes we'll invite other vendors or other merchants from town to come in and participate in our graduations, set up little booths and things like that. So he was really interested in that, and the reason he was so interested is because with Subway's a national franchise, and all they get for advertising is whatever they do nationally. So whatever's on the television, they don't really teach them any other grassroots things to do in the community to build up their business. Now each Subway franchise is individually owned, so it's up to them to take the initiative to learn and to do other things. So for me, sharing and giving him ideas, he liked that. Now the next thing, the next level that I went to with rack cards is I started to create fundraisers, and it was for our leadership team to use. I wanted to teach them about charity, about giving back, and of course the parents absolutely love when you do things like that. Now what I chose for a charity was I chose this hospital. It's called the Golisano Children's Hospital. And the reason that I chose that particular hospital is because when my son was born, about a month before, our good friends also had a son. The difference is my son was born healthy, their son was born with a hole in his heart. So we spent an enormous amount of time there supporting them and helping him through that as he went through several operations. and I watched how amazing they were in this pediatric unit. So afterwards, I called the hospital and I told them the whole story, and I said, I own a martial arts school, and I would really love to do some fundraising for you with my leadership team. Would you mind if we used your logo? And they said, well, how do you intend to do it? And I said, well, what we would like to do is I'd like to hold quarterly seminars. Sometimes we'll do a bully-proof seminar. Sometimes it'll be a summer safety seminar, different things like that. They'll be absolutely free that we can invite people to. And we're going to put these invitations to these seminars on our rack cards. Then what I'd like to do is I would like to put the Children's Hospital logo on there and put any donations go directly to support the Golisano Children's Hospital. Well, that was great, because now when I went in and I approached a new business owner, I wasn't saying, hey, will you cross promote with us business-wise? I was then approaching them saying, hey, listen, I have a team of kids, our leadership team, and they are working on a charity fundraiser for the Golisano Children's Hospital. And what I'd like to do is, or what we'd like to do is, we would like to get as many other merchants involved in this fundraising activity so we can hit our goal. Now, at the end of the year, once we've hit our goal, we're going to write a letter to the Children's Hospital, and we're going to include the name of all of the good merchants in our community that help support this cause. That was a much easier way to introduce ourselves to these business owners, because we talked about what was in it for them, but it also gave us a cause bigger than ourselves to talk about. And during the course of that campaign, we ended up with a few dozen other merchants that really got behind us with it, charity type of a thing. So were they happy to put our rack cards out? Absolutely they were. They put them right out there because we were working towards driving people to these events for our, basically their mass intros, but basically what they were was free workshops. At the end of the workshop, what we would say is, moms and dads, thanks so much for coming out today. We wanted to let you know that we're doing this as part of our leadership project to raise money for the Golisano Children's Hospital. And then I would tell them the story about, my friend's child. And I would say, if you really liked it and you really loved the seminar today, if you'd like to make a contribution of any kind to the Children's Hospital, our leadership team would really appreciate it. The kids at the Children's Hospital will appreciate it. And as a special thank you, we would like to give you 30 days of lessons for you and your entire family just for making a contribution of any amount. So you can see the power that has. It's so much greater. There's so much more good that you can do through something as simple as putting rack cards out. As you can see in the next bullet point, getting other merchants on your team, that's the whole point. It's not just you against the world. You're trying to create a team. You're trying to build your community one black belt at a time, and you're trying to reach out and extend your center of influence to get other merchants behind you and helping you hit your goals. That's what you do when you're driven, when you have passion, and when you have purpose. Now the next thing is it also gives you promotional booth locations. So for instance, when Ninja Turtles comes out, now it's pretty easy because now I can go back to Mr. Nash and I can say, hey, Mr. Nash, we got the Ninja Turtle movie coming out. This is an awesome promotional opportunity for us both. How would you like it if we sent our Ninja Turtle mascot out to Subway on such and such day, and we can have them out there with a Subway sign, and then anybody that comes in, we can also cross-promote whatever special it is that we're working on with our martial arts school. Well, of course, Mr. Nash loves that. Who wouldn't want the Ninja Turtle out there with a Subway sign when it's when we're doing all the work for him? It's working for him. It's also working great for us. Last but not least, PTOs. If you have a hard time getting into schools, the easiest way to do it is to go through the PTO, because that's not regulated by the school district. That's a parent-teacher organization that's sole purpose is to raise funds for the benefit of the kids. So think about this. If you wanted to approach them about doing a Parents' Night Out as a fundraiser for the PTO, how do you think you'll be perceived when you walk in with power names that have teamed up with you to be partners in education for that school? So I walk into my son's school in the PTO meeting and I say, ladies and gentlemen, I said, I'm here on behalf of my martial arts school, along with other merchants in the community, people or merchants that have teamed up with me, including Subway, McDonald's, whoever your big grocery store is in your area, Jamba Juice, whoever. You know, you just start naming off these names of merchants that have teamed up with you. Now that makes you look like you've got it going on. And when you have that kind of power behind you, people pay attention to you and they listen to you and they're very receptive to your ideas. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit with rack cards. Let's go to number next. How about this one? School talks. This is a biggie. If you're a beginner, you're taught, you go into the school and you give a presentation to the kids about bullying, right? We see all this on Facebook all over the place. Bully this, bully that. That's great. You go in there, and if you're lucky enough to have a school that will let you send home a flyer with your back-to-school offer, that's great. Most schools won't even let you do that anymore. I know that some of the schools down south you have better luck with. Up north, no way. They have a privacy act, and they just won't let you send home anything. They just don't want to deal with any of that kind of hassle. So you go in, you spend all this time, you do a school talk. The kids hear it, they love it. The teachers hear it, they love it. And you get absolutely no phone calls coming in from that. And of course, you get frustrated and you want to give up from that idea. Well, at the mastery level, you have to identify what the issues are. Why isn't this working? Well, number one, you're not talking to the right people. You're talking to the kids. The kids are not the decision makers, right? The parents are at home. They have no idea what you just taught. It could be the most amazing thing in the world and they didn't hear it. Of course, the teachers heard it, which is great. And of course, if it comes up in conversation, a teacher will likely refer the parent to have them take martial arts with you. But that's not, that's not the windfall that you were looking for in the first place. Next thing is you're not really connecting with the kids at their level. So if you talk to them about bullying and then you send them home with a back-to-school offer, that's not exciting to the kids whatsoever. So we need to think about what are we going to do in order to connect with the kids that's going to get them so excited that they're going to run right home and say to mom and dad, hey, I want to go to this karate place so bad, and we're going to get their attention. And then what's the last challenge? The last challenge is you're not really thinking long-term relationship. You're gunning for students this month, you really want them so bad, and you're not thinking long-term. So let's take a look at the solutions. Number one, we want to talk to the kids about something that they find exciting, such as nuclear zombie apocalypse night, right? That's just something that I made up. It's like a parent's night out type of an idea. So I go in and I do a school talk and all of that's great, but instead of sending them home with a back-to-school offer that the parent's going to look at and just toss aside, and the reason I say that is because I'm a parent and I know what, I have kids and I know what happens. We get bombarded with papers of offers of all kinds of things in my kids' folders, and we just throw them away. Too much clutter, got too many things to do. That's not exciting. However, if I'm at the school talk and I say to the kids, guys, thanks so much for having me today. I had a great time with all you guys. Now, if you want to do something really cool, if you want something really fun, then you're going to want to come this Friday night to our Parents' Night Out. We're having nuclear zombie apocalypse night. It's going to be so cool. We're going to have a black light, and we're going to have this fluorescent paint, and it's going to be so cool with all the zombies walking around. You guys are going to have a blast. How many of you would like to go? Raise your hand. And, of course, all the kids go crazy, and they raise their hand. So we say to them, kids, if you really want to go, you have to remember just one thing. We're going to send you home with an invitation in directions to our school for this Friday night if you want to come. So your assignment is to go home and tell mom and dad you really, really want to go to this thing and make sure that they see that flyer, and then have them call us so we know whether you're coming or not. Can everybody do that? Raise your hand if you understand, right? Raise your hand. Good. So everybody understands. So now I'm talking to them in their language. I will have a much better chance of getting kids to come in if it's something that they're interested in versus something that I'm trying to push. How do I know this? Because I talk to my kids and I say, how would you respond to this? And that you give them one flyer and then you give them another flyer. They look at the two and they always pick the one that's fun. Once they're there, now you can talk to the parents. Now you can build a rapport with the kid. All of those things in order to work your way to actually having them come in for an intro. Next solution, If you want to meet the parents, use a Parents' Night Out for a PTO fundraiser. If you want to know how to do this, make sure that you get a hold of me. Send me an email, call me, do whatever. Make sure you get a hold of me, because there's a right way to do it and there's definitely a wrong way to do it. But the idea is when you do the Parents' Night Out fundraiser, that allows the parent after school hours to actually bring the child in. That gives you the opportunity to get their emergency contact information in case you need to get a hold of them during the Parents' Night Out event. It also gives you the opportunity to ask for their email, because we're going to take a video of the Parents' Night Out event, how cool it's going to be, and we're going to send that video as a thank you to all the parents for supporting the PTO event. So again, there's more details to it than that, but you kind of get the idea. At least now I'm able to show my product. I'm actually able to meet the parent. I'm actually able to build rapport. So I have a much better chance of setting appointments from that. Last one, buddy bashes. If you're a beginner, you invite all the students to a paid buddy bash or Parents' Night Out every month. Maybe you charge 20 bucks, but you might even waive the fee if they bring a friend. I hear this every single month also. I kind of stopped doing these things because I get the same kids every single month, and you know, it's just not really working for me. So I just spend a whole bunch of time and I'm not really making much. And I say, okay, well that's great. You've made the mistake and now you need to understand why. At the mastery level, again, you identify the problem first. The problem is you're missing the basic understanding of events like this. The solution is simple. When you have a buddy bash, make it for white belts, make it for beginners. It's all new to them. Now, some of those people may share the same friends, some may not. But this is the first experience for them. So have the buddy bash. Don't charge anything for it, because your goal is for them to invite people that they know from, you know, whether it's school or, you know, church or, you know, their soccer team or their baseball league or wherever. You want them to be able to bring in their friends. And during the buddy bash, it's also a good opportunity to have the parents come in and do a white belt orientation. Let them get to know you a little bit better. For everyone else, all of your other students, use things like Parents' Night Out and other social events, but don't charge for these, right? We don't want to, you know, we don't want to be looking at the small amount of money that you could possibly make by charging $20 and having 10 kids show up. That's only $200. That's not enough to be thinking about. The whole point of these events, and I'm going back into the 1980s here, these are for retention. I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I don't particularly remember a specific class that I took. But I do remember all of the social events that we had. So everybody's got A, B, and C students, and the goal here is to make sure that your B and C students really love your school. They choose to be at your school over any other activity out there, whether it's baseball or soccer or playing a video game or any of the other things that are distractions. You want your place to be the place that they love to be. And the reason that they love to be there is because of the cool things that you do on a social level to make them feel good. So things like that, use those for retention. And I put this on here just as a side note. If you have to work for referrals, you're really doing something wrong. Referrals should become as a natural byproduct of you doing such an amazing job in creating such a feeling where people just love to be there. And not just the kids, I'm also talking about the parents, the adults. They should be saying, wow, these guys are amazing. What they do for the kids is just unreal. This is the conversations that they're having with their friends or other people at work. Hey, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, you know, my kids went to such and such event at our karate school. Or we as a family went to something as an event at our karate school. And they start talking about it because it was just so amazing. So we spend a lot of money on getting new students in the door, but then once we get them in the door, we don't think we need to really spend any money to keep them. And I don't think you need to spend a lot of money to keep them, but I do think you need to be conscious of the fact that events and things like this really are the glue that keep people around for a long, long time. So I tried to keep this down best I could, down to about a half an hour. We're just a little bit shy of that. I know everybody's busy with their schedule, so I don't want this to go too long. But again, I'm going to include my information one more time if somebody came in late. If you would like a copy of the very detailed October planner that I do for my one-on-one clients, just shoot me an email and I will send it over to you. Some of it is going to be very clear. It'll all make sense. For many of you, or for most of you, there's probably going to be some questions that you have about it. So, please feel free to email me questions that you have on there. And last but not least, I love this picture. Don't dwell on what went wrong, okay? What went wrong before is part of the learning process. So instead, we just focus on what we need to do next, right? We spend our energy on moving forward to find the answer. Always think about the solutions. Probably one of the best habits that I ever learned or got into was, once I have a problem, I don't think about the problem and I don't think about everything that went wrong. Instead, what I do is I take out a sheet of paper, good old paper, and a pencil or a pen. And we call it tapping your pencil, right? You take out a piece of paper and you tap your pencil and you start to think of every way you can possibly make it work. And when you focus on the ways that you can make something work and you focus on the solutions, it's amazing how many times you come up with the right answer. So thanks so much for having me on today. If you have questions, I don't know if we have time for a Q&A here at the end or not. So I'll just pause here just for a minute.
Thank you thank you very much, Mr. Storm. Yes, we do have time for a couple questions, if you don't mind. So far, we haven't had any questions posted. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, make sure to type it into the chat box, and we'll be happy to go over them. All right, so for nothing, well, again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Storm, for a great webinar and great information that you've shared with us. And thank you, everyone, for attending. We'll be posting the recording of this session and sending it out to all Mr. Marketers soon. And you're more than welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to post any questions on the Facebook group if you have in regards to the material that was covered today. Once again, on behalf of Championsway, we thank you for attending, and Mr. Storm, once again, thank you very much for conducting this great webinar.
Yes, sir. Thanks so much.
Have a good day, everyone, and happy Monday.